Hey guys, what's up? Today I'm going to be doing an overview video of the things I got at the 2020 Monroe Train Show. And I have to say before I start going over the items, this year is definitely the best train show I think I've ever been to, just for the amount of vendors and the cool stuff I saw. Definitely layouts were a highlight this year. There was a few layouts I'd never actually seen before, and it was just really cool checking out the new layouts. Usually the stuff, or usually the layouts of the train shows I've seen a lot before, just going to train shows for 3 or 4 years. So definitely pretty cool to see some new clubs bringing some modules out. Definitely a highlight was this big HO layout, and I think it incorporated a few clubs actually. There's definitely some mix matching between modules, but I don't know. It's just one of the most incredible train show layouts I've ever seen. So if I have any videos or pictures of that, I'll definitely put those at the end of this video. But let's just get into the stuff we got at the 2020 Monroe Train Show. And I don't know where to start. I guess we'll start here. This is a Mantua Oh shifter, and this loco, basically the story behind this was there's a really nice guy there, and this was towards the end of when we were going to be at the show, so I didn't have very much money left. And I just went over. I remember seeing this before, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna remember where this was. And so I went back over, and it was still there, and the price had actually dropped a little bit. And the guy, I talked to the guy before, and I showed a little interest, but I told him I'd be back if I wanted it, and I was back. So I ended up styling this for $15, and it's obviously not connected, and the wire is currently out. But the whole reason I actually got this shifter was to take the motor out and donate it to my other very old, this is a completely die-cast shifter from the 50s, and that one needs a new motor. So this was just a parts engine for that. Also, it has some pretty nice parts and a decent tender. It's missing the light, the railings, but it's a decent parts engine. So, and the motor ran very good, very fantastic. So I might make a video on the restoration of that 040 shifter and post that to this channel. Next up here is this beautifully weathered Bachmann Climax. This is a 2-truck Climax, and sadly this doesn't work right now. It suffers from the gear cracking that a lot of the Bachmann Shays and Climaxes suffer. But I don't know. This is just a very beautifully weathered model. And let's flip it around to the other side here. It's very cool. The engineer there. So yeah, just a very beautifully weathered model, and I'll definitely be posting updates on how that is going to get repaired. Probably the Northwest Shortline repair kit on that. And that, I believe, was about $200. This one was originally 20 bucks, but we got down to 15 bucks on that one. Here we have a little Rivarossi 040 saddle tanker in the Baltimore and Ohio scheme. I really like this locomotive, just because it's unnumbered, and I'd probably want to renumber it and take off that so I could put, I don't know, just a different railroad on it. I'm not a big fan of the Baltimore and Ohio, but it just, a nice little buy. So this locomotive was at an estate, actually, that brings a bunch of stuff to train shows, and it started out being 20 bucks as well, very similar to that shifter, but the guy said it didn't work, so I said 5, and he said, how about 7? And so he clearly wanted to unload it, but I mean, it's a very good pickup, and it actually runs very fantastically. I might include some running clips of everything at the very end of this video, so stay tuned for that, but just a really nice locomotive. And finally, of course, the big item. Not finally, I guess, but there's some small stuff I want to go over, but this is definitely the big item. This is an MTH 412-2, number 9000 of the 9000 series. And the story behind this was pretty interesting. So basically, I went to this train show in mind of getting probably a Bachmann 260 DCC sound value locomotive, and I couldn't find any. I had searched through probably about half of the trains that were actually in HO scale, and I couldn't find anything at this show that I was looking for. So now I was like, okay, that's I need to find something. So we went over to the second building, and there were these two ladies selling off a bunch of HO steam locomotives, all DCC sound. And the deals there were incredible, guys, I have to tell you. Before I get into how much I actually paid for this loco, I'm going to tell you there was a bunch of other stuff. There's a Challenger, MTH Challenger, MTH Big Boy, Dreyfuss Hudson, Allegheny, Cab Forward, and everything there was just in their table. It was incredibly cheap. It was at least $100 off the original MSRP, which is pretty decent for these MTH locos that are, in this case, out of production. They also had the BLI, one of the brass hybrid locomotives. I don't remember which one it was, but there was a brass hybrid in there. There was a Athearn Genesis Big Boy. That was pretty cool, and that was going for like $200 DCC sound. It had Tsunami 1 in it, but that's definitely still a very, very fair price to get on a locomotive like that. So anyways, into this locomotive, definitely used when I got it. The price tag said, it had a little price tag on it that said $500, and it had been crossed out and it said $330. It says that on the side here. You find it? Yeah, so the original MSRP, that was just sort of to show how much this had gone down in price, obviously. But their asking price was $330. And I went up to the lady and I was like, would you take $300 flat for this locomotive? Because that's very fair for these locomotives. And I didn't know at this point if I even wanted this locomotive. There's definitely a lot of real estate on eBay for these things. I looked it up and they were going for about $400 to $500 used on eBay. Even with the unprototypical articulation. So I said 300 and she was like, yep. So I counted out in 20s and this is my locomotive now. So we got home to the layout, and of course there was one small problem to it. In the tender there are some copper pickups, and the wires that go into the tender, I couldn't figure out why I was shorting out, but it turned out one of them had become desoldered and like sort of moved over and touched the other one. So that was a very easy fix. Just soldered that back on and it runs perfectly, guys. I have to tell you, I'm really a fan of the moving extra third cylinder. I really like the sounds on this locomotive. The whistle is pretty cool. The bell, not very prototypical, but it sounds nice. The one thing I'm not a huge fan of is the chuff sounds, and I like this chuffing sound, don't get me wrong, but the reason why I don't like it is it has the same chuffing as my MTH GS4 over there. So yeah, that's one downside. Another downside from it is that it was used and the traction tower is gone. So I'm gonna have to put some bullfrog snot on that. But other than that, guys, this locomotive has some incredible detail. And probably not as good as the BLI version, admittedly, but for $300, guys. And even if I don't want it, I can sell it on eBay, probably make some money back on it, but that's not the point. This thing is just beautifully detailed. So definitely the highlight for the show, buying things for me. We're gonna move on to some smaller things. These are just some outhouses and shacks for $3 just to paint and put on the layout eventually. Here's a random bag of debris. Basically the plan for our layout is we're gonna have a logging area, so this is just gonna be some stuff to scatter around, make it look natural. So over here we have a bag, and we bought a few switches, just some random track. We've got a bunch of track for the little inside DC loop that I just set it up just to run some stuff around on. But this stuff, just Atlas Code 100 snap track. So just made a loop of that. So yeah, it was a really good show. Definitely the most money I've actually spent at a show before. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, definitely check out some of the other stuff I've posted. I'm going to be uploading definitely a layout video and maybe a restoration video on my 040 shifter. So thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.